Just to briefly recap, in the last session of 50 minutes or so, we got through one verse. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsavaha mamaka pandavascheva kimakurvata sanjaya. This is the first verse. And really, I only just talked about two words: Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. So I guess I didn't get through very much in the last session because I just wanted to share a background of the significance of the text and give us a bit more color as to what that whole Bhagavad Gita is about and where it sits. Today, I hope to move a little bit further forward in the text and hopefully get us around 8 to 10 verses into the text. So remember, there's 700 verses to the Bhagavad Gita that we'll be going through. I'm in no rush, unless you all are. So I'm quite happy to go at the most natural pace and to ensure that we can actually, really internally benefit from some of these teachings rather than just race through. I think it's about the journey, not the destination. So, even if we spend significant time exploring it, it will be wonderful. I'd also like to just give a little bit of forward thinking in the sense that the teachings really start to come in the second chapter. So a lot of the setting for the Gita is this yoga of despondency. In fact, Shankaracharya, one of the great commentators of the Advaita tradition, or the great teachers of the Hindu traditions, hardly comments on the first chapter. We're going to spend a little bit more time exploring it and the significance of the Mahabharata, because I think it's important to get as much context of the Mahabharata, which is where the Gita sits, so that we can actually really absorb what some of the words and some of the teachings mean. I've got this copy of Sri Krishna Prem's Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. I will email all of these books, various Gitas that I have with me, just to give an insight to the various different commentaries. So Krishna Prem was worked for the British government on the British Raj in India, and became so in love with the teachings and so absorbed with the yoga there that he just left and joined an ashram, and just a small ashram in the Himalayas where him and a few people started to explore yoga and sacred texts. And he wrote this wonderful book, Sri Krishna Prem's Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. It was written in 1969. It was published in 1969, so I don't know what. In 1958 it was written, so this is not too long. First published 1938, so this was pre-independence. And I'll just read something that I really like what he wrote. In the first place, we must notice that though not the eldest, the chief Pandava brothers is Arjuna, not Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir is the eldest brother of the 5 Pandavas. He it was that won Draupadi at the Swayamvara, and it was he alone who she really loved, and he who was the hero of the greatest of exploits. Yudhishthir, the eldest brother, may excel in Dharma, and Bhima in feats of strength, but it is Arjuna's heroic prowess that the Pandavas depend on. And it was Arjuna who went to Kailash to get the weapons from Mahadev himself. It is Arjuna again who is the special friend of Krishna. And the latter confirms this view when, in the 10th chapter of the Gita, he proclaims Arjuna and not Yudhishthir as the chief of the Pandavas. So I think there's 2 important words that we can think about Arjuna and Krishna, and they say Nar and Narayana, Nar and Narayana, and that's really telling us something. So Nar is like our inner self, and Narayana is Brahman, the whole of existence, or the Lord, or God, however you seek to describe it. And Arjuna is Nar and Krishna is Narayana. So really, however you view the Gita, from whichever lens, we spoke about those different lenses, the very literal view, the very devotional view, the very spiritual view, or the very social view. However you view the Gita, Nara Narayana for me shows that Arjuna is Krishna. He is a part of that same divinity. And although he's positioned as the one who's questioning, the one who's the seeker, the one who's despondent, the one who's struggling, actually Krishna describes himself as among Pandavas, I am Arjuna. So as we explore that, we have to continue to think of the Gita as operating on multiple levels of understanding. So we have these two families, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and the father of the Kauravas is Dhritarashtra. And for those who are here in the West, myself included, you'll have to be a bit patient with the names. Some of these names are quite not easy to get used to, but I think hopefully over time you'll develop a relationship and an understanding with some of the names, like Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra is the blind king, and he is the father of the Kauravas. And his blindness can also be seen on multiple levels. Many people will say that that blindness is also symbolic of the mistakes that he makes as a king in his duty, where his responsibility towards the nation is lost because of his love for his sons, or because of his inherent greed or desire. And there's something that, kind of, I just made a note of earlier. Dhritarashtra's blindness is both physical and symbolic, representing spiritual blindness and attachment. Despite being aware of his son Duryodhana's flaws, throughout the Mahabharata, he clings to his son out of love and for fear of losing control. In fact, this is something quite interesting for us to explore. The Mahabharata says itself, Dharma sukshmosti. Dharma is a subtle matter. So in matters of the heart or matters of spirituality, often you'll find somebody who says, I have the answer. I know the way. This is how you should understand the spiritual part. But in the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, they say Dharma sukshmosti. Dharma is a subtle matter. So it's not something that should be, just kind of written down in a few rules and follow this and that's it. Dharma is hidden in the cave of your heart. That's where you find Dharma. It's written in the Mahabharata. And so Dhritarashtra, the blind king, at the birth of his son Duryodhana, who's a wicked person, he really is an embodiment of evil acts and greed and anger and desire, and he's a very vicious character, Duryodhana. But at his birth, when Duryodhana was born, the wolves were howling, thunder and lightning was coming, there was all kind of negative dark omens, and one of Dhritarashtra's advisors was telling him, look, this son is going to cause the destruction of the earth. I think we should end his life now before, he lives out everything that he's going to do. And Dhritarashtra says, how can you ask me to do that? That's my son. I love him. He's my child. So, that kind of pull is presented to us in the Mahabharata. Like, what do we do in these circumstances where we're living in the world? We have a responsibility for our family members, our loved ones. We have a responsibility to our nation, to the world at large. And those multiple responsibilities can cause a conflict sometimes. Like, culturally, sometimes you might want to work closely with those who are closest to you or look like you or come from the same country as you. But then you also have that universal responsibility to the world, which is that Sanatana Dharma, that eternal Dharma for the whole planet. So those can be at conflict, and the Mahabharata really explores those. And I would compel each of you to kind of explore those and sit with them and live with them, because they do exist. It's not only one way. So we may see that, oh, I'm from the UK, so I must do everything just to protect Britain first, or kind of that idea. But I think the Gita is telling us the whole world. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. That's the essential message of Krishna and of the Gita. And again, I mentioned it last time, but 4:24 of the Bhagavad Gita, very powerful. For the benefit of the world, you should act. I think it's actually chapter 3. For the benefit of the world, you should act, Arjuna. So he'll come to that teaching. So I'm going to start now looking at verse number 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Hopefully some of you have got a copy of the Gita to hand that we can explore it a little bit. And I'll just chant just so that you get a little bit of an idea of the sound of the Gita, and maybe it will give you an idea of how the Gita actually sounds. And not just the Gita, but the entire Mahabharata is sung, and I think it sounds very beautiful. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakav pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. Sanjaya uvacha drishtva tu pandavanikam vyudam duryodhanastada acharyamupasamgamya raja vachanam abravit Pashyetam pandaputranam acharya mahatinchamum vyudam drupada putrena tava shishyena dhimata atra sura maheshvasaha bhimarjuna samayudhi yuyudano viratascha drupadascha maharataha. So these are the first 4 verses. This beautiful rhythmic poetry to the Sanskrit verses. From many of the Hindu sacred texts, you find this kind of rhythmical poetry within them. And a big part of it, I think, is helping the tradition to pass down the sacred text through song. Maybe more easy to memorize, easy to listen to, and pass down. And just reading in English. O Sanjaya, after assembling at Kurukshetra, the field of Dharma, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? So that's the Kauravas and the Pandavas, being prepared for battle. Sanjaya responded. So Sanjaya is relaying the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita to Dhritarashtra, the king. Seeing the army of the sons of Pandu marshaled for war, King Duryodhana approached his teacher and spoke the following words. And by teacher, he means Dronacharya, who was one of the great teachers of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas. He taught them the martial arts, warfare, ethics. Dronacharya was a great teacher of the Pandavas. O Master, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, arranged by your skillful disciple, the son of Drupada. Observe heroes and great bowmen, peers in battle to Bhima and Arjuna, such as Yuyudhana, Virata, and the chariot fighter Drupada. To the great chariot fighter, the word is Maharataha, one who can single-handedly fight 10,000 soldiers. Maharata is a person who can kill many warriors in battle. And the verses actually continue here. This is Duryodhan talking, the epitome of negativity and darkness, and he wants to, and he's showing off. He's telling his teacher here, behold all of my warriors. And he goes on to say, there is Drishtaketu, Chetikanaha, the heroic king of Kashi, as well as Purujit, Kuntiboja, and the foremost of men, Sabya. There is the bold Yudamanyu and the heroic Uttamojas, and the son of Subhadra, as well as the sons of Draupadi, all are great chariot fighters, all Maharataha, able to kill tens of thousands of people. So Duryodhana is really expressing his ego here. He's showing off. He's talking about how many glorious soldiers and great kings he has on his side. O best of the twice born, I will now describe the most distinguished commanders in our army. There is your good self. There is Bhishma, there is Karna, there is the battle-winning Kripa, as well as Ashwatthama and Vikarna and the son of Somadatta. And there are many other heroes ready to give their lives up for my sake. He uses those words, all skilled in battle with various throwing weapons. So, protected by Bhishma, our strength is unbounded, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, protected by Bhima, is very limited. So we're up to verse 10 of the Bhagavad Gita there. I've tried to kind of push forward, but really those first 10 verses are all Duryodhana speaking. And he's speaking about how he's got such a strong army. My army has Bhishma, the great grandsire, the great warrior. I have everything behind me. I'm able to destroy these Pandavas so easily. We are going to win this battle very easily. And I think it's worth reflecting on the inner aspect of this, that sometimes in our own life, maybe in our career, maybe in our work, maybe in our thing, we feel we've got it all. I've got this one. It's me doing it. And, you know, I'm so confident that I can defeat anybody. I think we can also view that ego view of Duryodhana from the Bhagavad Gita, that it's me doing it. And I think as we will learn, as we progress, Krishna is really addressing his view. Like Ram Dass said, I'm not interested in your role. I'm interested in your soul. I'm interested in your heart. And Duryodhana is all here. But Krishna is all here. Ram is all here. Divinity is all here. Heart is here. So I feel that you'll see that progression of the worldview. And one of the stories from the Mahabharata that really demonstrates this is before the battle. Krishna said he wasn't chosen for any particular side. So there was a big period where everybody was choosing who would fight for who. There was great kings that joined Kauravas. There was great kings that joined the Pandavas. But the Kauravas both felt that Krishna was the game changer. He's actually divinity. He can make the big difference in this great battle. And so Arjuna and Duryodhana both made their way quickly to visit Krishna, to get him on their side. And so Krishna said, I will help whoever asks me first. Because he wanted to stay neutral to both. He's equal to both parties. And God shouldn't take sides. So, Krishna is saying, whoever comes to me first, I will join their side. And so Duryodhana actually gets there first to Krishna's place before Arjuna. But Duryodhana, being the person he is, went and stood directly next to Krishna's head while he was sleeping. So he comes and stands by Krishna's head. But Arjuna comes and stands by Krishna's feet in humility and humbleness. And as Krishna opens his eyes from the sleeping, he sees Arjuna first, instead of Duryodhana, who's standing up by Krishna's head and trying to be equal to that divinity himself and his ego. It's a very interesting thing. But then Krishna still says to the both of them, look, Arjuna, I've seen you first, so I want to be fair still. You can choose. You can either have me or you can have my entire army, which was tens of thousands of people. You can choose. And I won't fight in the battle. I will only be a charioteer. Because Krishna in the Gita is a charioteer. He's just a guide. And so Duryodhan gets very upset and angry. He's like, I got here first. I should get to choose. I want the army. And he's worried. He thinks that Arjuna will definitely choose the army of tens of thousands of warriors to be on his side rather than choosing Krishna. And Arjuna says, I will only choose you, Krishna. So, he chooses to have Krishna on his side as a charioteer. And the entire army, Krishna's entire army, because he was a great king of a great region, went to Duryodhan. And Duryodhan thought, I've made it. This is me. I'll be able to win the war easily now. So I think, as we're progressing through these Gita verses, I wanted to really give that, feeling that there are these two sides, one of goodness, one of the mode of goodness, and one of the mode of ego and negativity and, selfishness and desire. And they're not purely good and evil in the sense that, like when you look at yin yang, you see goodness, you see light in the dark and dark in the light. The Mahabharata is like that. Sometimes Duryodhan is really good. He says the right, like what I feel is he's saying something really good here. He's saying something very just. And then other times you'll find the good guys doing bad things. Like Yudhishthira does Yudhishthira is supposed to be the exemplar of Dharma, the oldest brother. He does some awful things. He gambles his kingdom away. He even gambles his wife away. He does some terrible things. And that's the exemplar of Dharma, making huge mistakes of Dharma. And so I think coming back to Dharma, sukshmosti, Dharma is a subtle matter. It's hidden in your cave of your heart. We can all make mistakes in Dharma. And just to kind of, as I'm winding up this second period, I really want to explore the word Dharma. We have that organization, Go Dharmic. So when we're saying Go Dharmic, what does Dharma mean? And if I look at the root word Dharma, Dharma comes from the root dri, which means to hold. Essentially, it means to sustain. So if you think about the Dharma of sugar, it may be to be sweet. The Dharma of fire, to produce heat or to produce light. Now, what is our Dharma? What is the Dharma of humanity? And that's what the Mahabharata is exploring. That's what we are exploring together. What is our Dharma? What are we here for? What is our purpose? And how should we live in the world? And ultimately, the Mahabharata and the Gita and this whole journey is not about us using the Gita to become a better business person or a better, successful in our life, which there are many things that can give us great strength, great leadership, great ability, great tools for success. So you might hear someone in India now giving a talk, Gita for management, or this kind of like how to succeed with the Gita. You might feel like that. And yes, there are great things that can make us better human. I think it's better because it makes us a better human being. So that therefore it helps us to understand those things. But that's the essence of the Gita. It's a Dharma Shastra, the exploration of Dharma. It's a Moksha Shastra, the exploration of enlightenment and liberation. And that's what we're really looking at. And all the other things are just benefits. So when we think about the path of yoga, they say as a person achieves yogic powers and yogic strengths and benefits from lots of yogic practice, they get lots of powers which then lead them off in a different direction, away from the true goal of the teachings, where they may become more interested in disappearing to another part of the world, or understanding somebody's mind, or getting these kind of supernatural powers, rather than the true goal, which is what I believe the true goal is love. The true goal is to connect with that unconditional love hidden within the cave of our hearts, which is divinity. And that is where if we live and breathe that, and if we live from that place, and we have that essence of prema, that unconditional love, then that is what I believe, we as honeybees are really all searching for. And that is where we'll kind of meander across this Mahabharata towards the Gita, towards that inner essence of the heart and divinity. That is the true essence. And that's, what really attracted me to Neem Karoli Baba, and that essence of his profound love for all living beings. And Ram Dass said something interesting. What he said, the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramcharitmanas, those two books, although Neem Karoli Baba didn't speak about them a lot, he did sometimes, but what he really did was live them, and the teachings he gave to people and what he spoke to people and how he lived and how he carried himself were those teachings personified. And so I think the two books that I really am greatly in love with is the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramcharitmanas of Tulsidas, which I think are two glorious and beautiful texts out of so many that we can explore. So I think I'm going to pause there for a second. I hope we haven't had too many technical issues, but I would love to encourage some of you to maybe put your hand up or write something in the note if you'd like to share something. And maybe if Lakshman's able to unmute, we can have a go at unmuting a few of us, and kind of having a little bit of question or dialogue or conversation or whatever arises for you on these sessions, so that we can explore it a little bit more deeper together and make this journey a little bit more interactive for all of us. Okay, I'm going to read something from Ryan. Hi, Ryan. There you are. Oh, I can see you. I've been utilizing the Gita with someone who has been suffering from addiction. We are 2 chapters in, and I can already see something stirring and blossoming inside of him. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I would say, we all have our addictions. We all have our game that we're playing. And when I just read that, the thing that came to me was, the Gita is Krishna. It's sacred. It is Krishna, so it will do its own work. There's nothing for us to do apart from just sit with it and memorize. And these are mantras. These words are mantras, and sacred tools to unlock that within us. And I think it should happen naturally, and that's beautiful. I think the more we live within the air of the Gita, the more it can work on us, and more it can transform our hearts. And I hope we can go slowly through that and explore it. Has anybody else got any thoughts, questions, words? I think we can stay on for a little while still, so please don't feel shy to come in. Yes, Lakshman.
Hey everyone, yeah, thanks Hanuman Dass. I just had a question. So you're saying that the ultimate goal is this true love ultimately, but I'm interested in what your viewpoint is. Why is the Gita set as this like violent battle when that seems to probably lack love? I'd love your view on that.
I hope you don't try to get me to the end of the Gita before, we've only just started, so you're getting to no. It's a very, like, this question has been asked for thousands of years, and so I can only give my view, not authoritative view. I can only just give what I feel. And I've been reading the Mahabharata for many years, and what many people say is the Gita is battlefield, but they don't look at the deeper context of how many years and years of suffering and difficulty the Pandavas went through before they got to this moment. In fact, Krishna himself goes to Duryodhan and the Kauravas himself and pleads with them not to go to war. And he said this would not benefit anybody. This is going to cause everybody's destruction. Don't go through with this, Duryodhan. In fact, he said just give them a few barren villages and let them live on those small area, because the Pandavas had right to half of the land. Like they had right to half, and instead of giving them half of the land, Krishna says to them, just give them a few barren villages and let them rule there, and you take the rest. And Duryodhan's response says, I won't give them the land which is on the eye of a needle. I won't give them that much land. He only wants to kill them. He doesn't even want them to live. He only wants to cause them destruction. So in that instance, after trying for years and years, many years went past of violence and battle, and Duryodhan and the Kauravas doing wicked acts, like stripping the wife Draupadi naked and killing people, and trying to burn their house, burn them alive in their home, and cause violent acts, and really destroying, like causing destruction on earth. That's at the point where the battle was not possible. So I would I'm always looking for books around here to show you, but if you really want to explore this in a wonderful way, Dr. Nicholas Sutton has done a PhD on the Mahabharata, and his exploration of the doctrines of the Mahabharata explores this at great detail, this idea of violence and stuff. And one of the things he says we need to be really careful of is not using the Gita as a book of promoting violence, because it's really not that. The Gita is a spiritual text, and the interesting thing is, none of the great commentators or spiritual teachers of the Gita, Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, none of the great teachers have ever suggested that this is a book of violence. So you have within that the great traditions of thousands of years, who have never taken this book as a book in that way. So you have to look at what those great commentators and what those great teachers have said. And I think one of the dangers, is we as human beings, I feel, will justify our demons very easily. So like in the context of slavery, what was done to African people, so wicked. Slavery, taking them from Africa and planting them to work on lands and so on, and it was justified as them not being human enough or not being of a higher level. And we did that. We justified that as human beings to each other. And therefore, I'm always cautious to, one should really study the Gita, study the Mahabharata before making an assumption that there is. Yes, the Gita takes place on a battlefield, but that is on multiple levels. So I guess I'll pause on that there, because I think that's a whole, exploration in and of itself, that where is this actually taking place? And, Gandhi can be considered quite a controversial figure, and regardless of what people think of him, the Gita was central to his non-violence. So that's an answer for you in and of itself, that this battlefield which is taking place was central to somebody who promoted non-violence. And okay, which I think we've got time for a few more. Okay, I'm just trying to get. Would it be fair to say that so many commentaries of the Gita exist because Bhagwan Krishna is infinite and for his teaching is infinite, and we can never say that we will totally understand the Gita from a particular Sampradayic view? Just for those who don't know what Sampradaya means, Sampradaya is a lineage or a tradition. So, many people will have a sampradaya, say for example, people from the Hare Krishna perspective, they might have a particular school or tradition that comes from their lineage of teachers, and they stay within an understanding of the Gita. That's true. And then other people, so non-dual perspective, like Shankaracharya, Advaita, they will have a view where the whole Gita is Atman and Brahman. It's the Upanishad. So I think you're right. I think because Krishna is infinite, therefore his teachings are infinite, and we can never say that we can totally understand the Gita from a particular sampradaya perspective. I think the Gita takes us beyond our mind. So if you think about like the chakras that people will have, you work your way up, and then you're at a place which is beyond just the mind speculation. So sampradaya also can do that. So I don't think that, I think I would probably say that, yeah, the sampradayas can take you there as well. There's many ways up the mountain. So sampradaic understanding can understand it, but I think that it's not the truest understand. I think that, multiple, like, the Gita is pluralistic. As I said last week, there are 18 yogas that we're going to explore in this Gita. And each one of them, Krishna talks about meditation. He talks about karma yoga, working in the world. He talks about devotion and love. So all of these are true. They're all, so I would actually probably say that the opposite, that I see it, that, all of these paths can be paths to liberation, paths to love. Which version of the Gita would you most recommend? Oh, that's a very difficult question. I would say your Gita. Firstly, it's your Gita. The Gita I would recommend is you exploring the Gita, the verses, and sitting with them and working with them and letting them sink into your own heart and it becoming your Gita. So that's why, we even called these talks Journey Within, so you could explore the Gita yourself, and, we'll explore what different people are saying. But ultimately, Nar and Narayana, Atman and Brahman, the soul and divinity, it's your understanding, your heart that connects to the Gita. Maybe more a more useful answer, but if I could just suggest a few. I really love Dr. Nicholas Sutton's study guide to the Bhagavad Gita. It's very beautiful. It's non-sectarian, it's non-sampradaic, so it just gives you his views on the Gita, and it's a good study guide that's really wonderful. Ram Dass is a very nice exploration, which is Paths to God, Living with the Bhagavad Gita. So those two are quite close and special to me. Both, I've been very close to Ram Dass and Dr. Nicholas Sutton, who we've, produced 4 books with. I would probably say I also like the Gita Press edition. Gita Press, which you could probably buy for about £1 in India, or, just over $1. You can order the Gita Press edition. It might be the shipping is much more expensive than the book. So that's a really wonderful one. And one that I have quite close to me is Shukavak has written a beautiful translation. So as the commentary that I'm reading at the moment is, as we go through the translation, the words are coming from this book, which is by Shukavak Dasa, the Bhagavad Gita. Honestly, I don't know if it's available. It may be available, but Shukavak has written he's a scholar in California who's written this text, which I really like. But really, the Sanskrit is the same in all of these texts. So, as long as you've got a decent translation, there's not a huge amount of variance in the actual translation, apart from a few Sampradaic texts which will really kind of push their view using the Gita. So I guess, it's good to have 2 or 3 and maybe look at, them from your own view. Okay. For those who have, okay, that's Lakshman. I've got one more there. Namaste. I have a question on ahimsa. I understand it means non-violence. However, does it also mean protecting if needed? Protecting Dharma and take action? Does the Bhagavad Gita explain why and when himsa, which means harming, is justified? Yeah, I think it does. I think the idea of ahimsa is much more nuanced than purely non-violence. And Gandhi, he used the example of if a tiger came into your house, would you protect your children? And I think there's a logical aspect to say yes, you would try to protect your children in that. So I think ahimsa is not really, saying that we should never have a reason to be defending ourselves or to protect ourselves. But what ahimsa says is never displaying malice through any living being, through thought, word, or deed. Acts of kindness and giving in charity, caring for others, loving one another. That is non-violence, that is ahimsa. And that we will act in the way to cause the least harm wherever possible. And that's the idea of ahimsa that is shared largely in the Mahabharata. Like, it is really a lot of statement on that. And I think it really becomes not a commandment, but a way of being that I will act in a way that reduces harm wherever possible. Causing harm to nature through violence of cutting down forests or harming animals unnecessarily, living in a way or consuming food, our food choices, if we can not rely on the suffering, needless suffering, then we could choose a view of perhaps vegan diet, where we don't have to consume any animal products unnecessarily when there's violence caused, or living in a way and speaking in a way where we don't hurt the feelings of other people. That is ahimsa. But I think there is always that, just as we need to be non-violent, and we need non-violence more than anything, and through Go Dharmic's work we want to exemplify non-violence, there may be cause or reason to be acting out of defense, and never kind of leaving that as well. So that's my personal view on ahimsa. I don't think anybody was able to unmute. So if anybody does have any other thoughts or comments, please do share. If not, then maybe we can, I received some comments last week that we ended on very sharp and himsa, violent ending. So maybe we just take a few minutes to sit together, and I can just finish with a small meditation on just some of the words that I feel that we can reflect on, and then we can just sit quietly for a few minutes together, and I just wanted to explore the words of Ram Dass, where he says, I want my life to be a journey of love and compassion. I want my life to be a journey of love and compassion. Where it's not, it's okay. That's just where my work lies. I am loving awareness. 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 May we have love in our own hearts, loving awareness. And may we extend that love to each other here in this satsang. Loving awareness to each one of us. May we extend it further to our friends and our loved ones, our family. I am loving awareness. May we extend it further still to our country. I am loving awareness. And extending it to the whole world. I am loving awareness, sending love to all who suffer, to those who suffer in disaster zones, to those who suffer in war zones, to those in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Bangladesh, in Sudan. Send them love and bear witness to that suffering. And as the Gita shares with us, do whatever we can to act for their welfare. May all beings be happy, and may all be free from suffering. Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you next week. Much love to all. Have a good week, and thank you so much for being here. We completed 10 verses. We'll see you next week. Ram Ram.